Oh, there's Mandy. Hi.
I just couldn't get in. I kept getting all my passwords confused and everything. So I was here right on, the hour, and then just couldn't get in till now. So lovely to
Oh,
see you.
there's Mandy. Hi. Up. There we go.
I
There,
couldn't get in. I kept getting all my passwords.
there we go. Oh gosh. All
Oh, happy
right.
to see you both. Oh.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's great to see you as well. And just how are you getting on? Did you didn't get sick at all from the conference or from the retreat?
Well, you know me, I don't take on sickness. I don't have it in my head. I don't have the belief in it, and so I don't suffer from it.
Good.
Therefore, I
Very
also
good.
don't give it to others.
Oh, well, that's good. I appreciate that as well.
Thanks for
That is
asking.
a trick that I need to learn uh, because I haven't quite gotten that myself. And actually, this whole idea of the belief in being the body and and what it actually does to a person when they believe that this is what they are is really something that uh, I don't know. Of course, we all are exploring it, right? We're all exploring it, but exploring it to the point of asking the question, what would I rather be here and be in this form? Um, is there anything that is better that I could be doing? And of course, right now I'd say, oh no, the best thing I could be doing is what I'm doing right now, because here's what I'm here for. But uh, then also asking the question, well, then why do I subject myself to the foibles of the body? Go through all this business with um, experiencing what I considered to be COVID. Had to mute myself so I could cough. I'm making myself cough from talking. So yeah, so what's the point of all of it? And there's like a few clues in A Course of Miracles where Jesus says to us, I need your hands and your feet and your lip, your mouth and your ears. I need your eyes. I need you to be in this physical form because those who you are here to join with believe that they're in that physical form and wouldn't be able to accept you in another form. So, it's necessary for us to be in the body at this point. Um, but it doesn't make it easy to then experience myself as the Holy Son of God and experiencing myself as this body. And so the poem I picked today, go, going into
Can
it.
I just answer that though before we just get to the
Okay,
poem?
okay, sure. I love it.
Because I mean, are you recording this at the moment? Which is
Yes, yes.
fine. Yeah. Um, it's so much simpler than that. It's just simply that whenever we've got an illness, I'll just put that on, or a pain of any description, if we really notice, we describe it to ourselves over and over, 1,000 times a day. So yes, last week I had the belief in the appearance of goodness knows how many aches and pains. So I just noticed every time the thought came up as I moved from one place to another, I just dropped it, released it, and release it. I just find illness such a great way of releasing. But I don't think, I used to think, oh, I've got to go into the depths of this. What is it that I'm doing? What's happening in my thinking, before causing this and everything. And then all those explanations. But it's so much simpler. It's just that we simply remind ourselves of it all the time whenever we have an ache or pain or a condition. And then it's magnified if other people talk about it too and say, oh, yes, I've got that condition. And now we're in a little club where everybody's agreeing, whatever condition it is, whatever, and anything. So I think the only trick with any illness, anything, is to just be aware how many times a day you remind yourself of it, of every little ache and pain and everything, and just keep dropping it, dropping it, dropping it, releasing it. And then you actually get beyond it. You really do get beyond it. And the first thing that happens is it ceases to block you. So you still might be aware of the aches and pains, but it's no longer blocking you because you're not listening to the mind about it. And then after that, it literally just disappears. And we don't add time to it, like saying, well, how long is this going to take before it disappears? We just drop all that. And it just keeps nowing, 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 right now, right now. So that, to me, for me, that is the secret with dealing with every kind of illness. And believe me, in the appearance of my life, there's been a massive amount of it and hospitals and everything. But I just get over it and get over it and get over it. And now it's my absolute practice, So that's all I wanted to really sort of say. I don't think there's anything anywhere deeper to go than that simplicity, to stop reminding ourselves of it thousands of times a day. So that's my take on it.
Could I just pop in and add something to that?
Absolutely, Rafi.
Um, the same thing occurs when something comes up in this body, a pain, a clutching, uh, like when my right shoulder reacts, I know that there's resistance. I mean, I use it, the body as a trigger mechanism to fight, to get right to the heart of what needs to be released and then let it go. Um, everything here is serving us. Why shouldn't this image of the body serve us as well? And so it becomes easier and easier. Um, I have, just to describe it as a perfect health for ages now because of that simple practice. Okay, what's this? What's this? Oh, this needs to be. Oh, there's a clutching here. What is that? Oh, it's a fear. Okay, well, let the fear go, and the energy goes, and then there's no more discomfort. Um, and it's a simple practice. So whatever she said that she does, and I do it fairly similar, and you use it as the serving mechanism that everything is here uh, for us. It's just the simpler you make it, the better it is. KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart.
Yeah. And then back to what Lynn was saying, that's exactly why we have the body. Yes, we have this body. It's great. And it's to serve us in exactly that way that we were just saying in releasing and just releasing it. And no deeper than that. Very simple, just many times a day. And honestly, it becomes so easy because giving into the thoughts of aches and pains is literally a luxury we cannot afford. So it's brilliant, that practice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I think, when you look at people that we consider perhaps like Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ken Wapnick or Dov Fishman, people who
Well, Lynn
have
Johnson.
Lynn Johnson, who have had cancer and other diseases, and just kept going on no matter what, because there was they didn't consider themselves to be ill. They just considered themselves just to be whatever the condition of the body appeared to be. And Ken up to the end was, given workshops and, just appeared to be as strong as anything. It was a huge shock when, we found out that he had passed away. was like, wow, I thought he was, indestructible. And but it was his time, and that was there's a lot in the course that talks about that no one dies without their own consent. There's a certain time that and there's a lot of talk also about what happens, uh that when you come to the point where you have completely accepted the atonement for yourself, that uh you are in all the worlds. So you're not in the world of this life or that life or whatever, that you are basically everywhere, which is the truth about us. What we really are is really everywhere, and we're the ones keeping ourselves confined in these small body, small world uh, configuration. If we knew what we really were, what we really are, there would be no limits of anything, and the body itself, have just there as the tool that it's here for, the communication device that it's here for. So, our goal, my goal anyway, I don't know, I know your goal too. What am I saying? Of course, our goal is to remember that, to remember the truth of what we are, and to be the Christ in this world. Be the Christ walking, being the resurrected Christ walking through the world in in grace. And so, then it doesn't matter, cancer or a splinter in your finger or, anything. None of those things, it's all the same thing. There's no real disturbance in the force
Well,
from
like that expression, the expression when we say, get over yourself. Well, there's nothing truer than that. That's all you need. I think with that simple, that's it. That's my Christ. That's my Bible. Just get over yourself, and everything that we've been saying is getting over that limited sense of self. Yeah, just what you said, Lynn.
Yeah, and that's what we're all here for. There's not there You can't say, well, yeah, but that guy, he's obviously not into. It doesn't matter what anybody is into, because that's all part of the facade. It's the illusion, and it's not the reality of what we are. And here I think recently in America, and I know everywhere in the world these things are happening, but I speak of what is close to home here. There appears to be a dichotomy between various groups of people about how they think things should be, what they think is right, what they think is wrong, what they think is good, what they think is bad, and it causes uh people who believe that to lose their peace, just no peace in their hearts and minds, nothing but conflict and wanting to fight and argue and control and complain and all these different things. And what we our what we're here for is to be the peace that walks through the conflict and just wafts the scent of love everywhere we go, so that those who are affected by us or in contact with us experience that peace. And that's really what everyone's looking for. They think that getting their way is going to bring them peace, but it never does, because there's no way in this world that is made to bring about peace. The only thing that's made to bring about peace is our connection with the Christ and our being the Christ. So however we do it, and that's what we're here for. There's no excuses. No matter what you think about yourself, God thinks otherwise. Anyway, Rafi, did you want to say something?
No, but just to verify everything you said, a couple of the masters have said the body was designed to do whatever it's going to do before you were even conceived. and it's going to go through all of that. And then when it served its purpose, when it serves its purpose, finished serving its purpose, it's going to go. And that's what happens in the dream. And what's that got to do with what we really are? Nothing. It's just doing its dance, and when the dance is over, it sits down. But the rest of the infinite being that we are watches it, uses it for whatever purpose it can best serve, and then that's all. I mean, I've watched all the people that I have been very close to in this life, my wife, my son, my family, all the people who have come here, served their purpose, and then when whatever their contribution was finished, they went. And at first it was, oh my God, all the grief of them passing. Then it was, I understood. They served, they served whatever they were put here to do in this dream that never was. And then it was time for them to put down whatever they were doing and go. And where'd they go? Nowhere. Because that has forever been, am now, will forever be. Ain't going nowhere. And the rest of the stuff comes and goes as needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautifully said, Rafi. Beautifully said. And yeah, that's why, we're doing what we're here to do. And we can do nothing else. So I'm going to put up our poem that came to mind this morning. And I hope, actually, and bring some light to our situation, what we think we're doing here and what we are doing here, which is I love this. God is doing you. And would anybody like to read this poem? I would love to, hear anybody else's voice but my own. Mandi, of course, you are always welcome to read the poem. John has his hand up. Unmute yourself.
I would like to read it, but I would rather have Mandi read it. Maybe she can read it at the end.
Oh, I'd like to hear you read it, John. Please go ahead.
Okay. God is doing you. Every little thing you do is by his grace and not by you. But because you move at such a pace, you often miss this perfect grace. Except in nature or in a garden or when a bird sings. But what about when you're doing bathroom things? Often in the bathroom, you think about what's next instead of chilling in the moment and enjoying the rest. So when resting, notice the light. That's even around toilet rolls. Instead of thinking about your next activities and goals. For instance, just this morning, when handling a roll of foil, I marveled at how my fingers made it uncoil. At first, it was unnoticed and taken for granted. But immediately after, I saw the life force implanted, and that was my spiritual I, who was performing the task, which was otherwise impossible and pointless to ask. Of my own self, I can do nothing. Christ says and knows. In him I move and have my being, and wiggle my toes. Well, maybe I added that last little bit. But you get in the gist. The spiritual substance is of what we consist. To see this love light, you really don't need classes. simply readjust your eyesight and put on God's glasses. Relax your gaze and admit no interference. Then a God I am sees beyond the appearance. And then it starts and getting really interesting and worthy of your time investing. Because you start losing your shock ability and begin to develop a spiritual ability. So if someone offends you or tells you of an illness they feel, you'll know the impossibility of that to be real. You may observe your mind wanting to resist the truth, that the person concerned doesn't even exist, that their thoughts in their body are mind-made facade, which you can and must instantly discard by discerning through your spiritual eyes that just where they seem to be, only love resides. Right there, where discord seems to appear, is spirit, God as life, right here. And just a word about feeling offended. The moment you hear it, make sure that it's ended. In that very instant, you can make a choice to take it personally or listen to the voice of ego that blindly leads down paths of self-pity, where thoughts can quickly form a resentment committee. So do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? That's the phrase to remember. But just make it snappy. Otherwise, the ego will get you. It's all just a test. You choose misery or ease and rest. Seeing through, that's all you have to do, not searching outside and trying to find, but only by resting the mind. So this is crucially important and something you can't fake. If you can't slow yourself right down, don't say you're awake. This is where the rubber meets the road. Regarding humility, because you've achieved nothing if you're lacking this ability to slow down. Absolutely every single task. Washing, drying, eating, or opening a flask. Pulling up your trousers. Fastening your shoe. And never even rushing anything you do. If you know you haven't been living in this way, and I mean constantly, every second of the day, then you are missing out on life, existing only in time, constantly futurizing. And this is the real crime. You're not as aware as you imagine. It's all still in your head. Only something you think you know, from wisdom that you've read. That may sound harsh, but it's love's wake-up call to get clear in leading you right back to now and nowhere else but here. So please don't be saddened by the words you've just heard, because there's no past time that's really ever occurred. To live the life of wakefulness that I've just described, rely on I to help with this. It's well beyond the mind. Just relax as I abide in me. Remember just to simply be. And we can start this process now, together, me and you. Since you and me are one and all, we live only as peace. Countless others will hear love's call, and they too will release. All their trying and conspiring and living life by force will yield and give way to grace, centered in their source. Amen. What a poem. Take a breath on that one.
Amen.
Absolutely perfect.
Beautiful.
Beautifully read, John. Thank you so much. Lovely to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for writing it. Wow, that's awesome.
Just so beautiful, and just exactly what we've just been talking about. I didn't read this poem before. I just saw the title of it and said, this is what we need here, is to just um, be with God. Hey, Regis. So beautiful, beautiful. Any thoughts? God is doing you. What does that mean?
Well, it's just that you're not doing any of it. You just think you are. And every time we release, we just feel that overwhelming flow, don't we? That overwhelming love. And there's nothing that we have to do or plan. And when we just move slowly through the day, just slowing everything down, every little task, then it's just a really good way of staying very present. But we rush so many things, so many tiny things. And that's why I talked a lot about the bathroom, because that's exactly where we do the most hurrying. We either resent that we've actually had to go because we're in the middle of doing something, and then we can't wait to get back to it. And you know, so I love that in America toilets are called restrooms. I've said this before. I just think it's wonderful. You could call this poem God is Doing You, or you could also call it The Restroom. You could read it in the restroom.
It's interesting. If you are a parent and you have young children, sometimes that is the to get to some place where you can just be quiet, and until they learn how to knock on the door, open the door, whatever. But sometimes I just go in there just to rest. It, you're right about that. And what's more restful than eliminating the waste from your body and clearing it out. So it's good in all ways.
But it's just that little thing that, when I was handling the roll of foil. Do you call it foil? Because I know you have different names for things, like you called cling film Serrano wrap, I think, don't you? But is foil the same word?
Foil is the same, yes. We say foil.
Yeah. But it's just that when you make the choice to slow everything down, it's not about thinking, oh, I'm going to practice mindfulness. It's not, because then you give it another label. It's just that you just start to notice the actual joy in these tiny little things. And all it takes is just slowing down everything that you do, every single thing that you do. And then when it comes to the bigger things, then you're already practiced up in being able to sit. Like if you get a letter, like I remember my auntie did, she got a letter that looked like she owed loads and loads of money, and it was terrifying. But she was a Christian Scientist and also saw through the illusion. She says, oh, I'm just going to sit before I react, and then she did, and then she just rang up the people, and they said, oh, it's a complete mistake. But what a lot of people do is they react immediately, And then they might find out it's a mistake, but they've just wasted half an hour's energy getting really, really upset. So it's just that when we slow everything down, things just start to happen by themselves. And it's very humbling to know that God is doing you, whether you're brushing your teeth or whatever you're doing, that you are being done. You are not the doer of it. So, I mean, you've heard all this stuff before, but that's really, when I wrote that poem, it just really came home to me, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's just so gorgeous, all of it. And that's I'm very much that way. So I I don't I tend to just stop. If something seems like it's overwhelming, I just stop and just know that, whatever it is, the next moment something else will be happening. And no matter how terrifying something may be, there's it's only temporary. All of it is just temporary, and never ever what my mind, my ego right away tells me it is. So I've learned that from just experience, not to make up any story about what's going on, until I've got more information. And that has done me well, absolutely. Rafi has his hand up, and then Dove also. Go ahead, Rafi.
Could you just remove the screen share? Is that okay? Just so
Sure,
I can see everyone.
absolutely. Happy to do
Thanks,
that.
thanks.
Yeah. There we go. Now we can see each other.
Yeah, I use the bathroom as a great place to get in touch with the grace of God. I mean, you're sitting there, and I have materials around me. There's a book by Yogananda. One of Lester's books is there, and I'll pick it up and refer to it. But it always brings me back to that one thing: get in touch with the grace of God, the Christ, that all-pervasive love that is the only reality. And it's a great moment to do that. So everything, use the moment for, uh, will take advantage of the moment that is there and stay in that moment and be in that one. And when I'm in touch with that omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent peace, bliss, love, that infinite love that we all are made of, I feel the mind gets quiet, the love is there, the peace is there, that blissful presence shows up because and then there's this immense quiet, which is the only reality. And again, it's another moment that we're blessed with. And I ain't doing anything. It's happening through me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rafi. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Dove, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the idea that God is doing me is words, in different words, that Byron Katie is very well known to have said. She says, "I am being walked." I'm being done. That's what Byron Katie actually uses, those expressions, that she's not doing the walking, she's being walked. Robin Busfield, who used to teach here, I know that Lynn remembers Robin very, very, very well, told a story once about she needed to clean her house, and she was talking to the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit says, why don't you just turn it over to the Holy Spirit and just rest in God. And she said, but if I do that, my house will never get clean. He said, no, no, do what it is that I asked you to do. She did it. And if you remember the story, she said the house was done in a fraction of the time. And she doesn't even remember actually doing it, other than everything was really immaculate and clean. And she wasn't tired at all. That's the story that Robin told right here at ACM Gather.
Well, that's just, do you remember when we first started these, Dov, I was telling you when I got a job looking after somebody's, like mini mansion. And the first day I got in a real state of it. And the second day I had that exact experience where Divine Spirit just said, go as slowly as you possibly can and don't even get a sweat on. Just go deliberately slowly. And I remember saying the same thing, like, this is impossible. This is a 6-bedroom house. I've got to make a meal. I've got to do anything. And I did. I just stopped looking at the clock. I just went really slowly, really, really slowly. And everything got done, including the meal and everything. Because, and like you're saying, that was just absolute sheer evidence to me that I am being done. I'm not the doer of it. So yeah, lovely. I love all these stories. The more the merrier. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Absolutely. I was just, you just made me think of Vicky Poppy. And anyone who'd ever visited Vicky Teddy or Vicky up in Quincy, that was a mansion. Absolutely amazing, huge house, and they had kids from all over the world who stayed at the house, who were going to school, learning to speak English, etc. And I mean, you talk about, loads of laundry, loads of dishes, loads of cooking. Vicky would cook, 3 meals a day, and for all these, you know, people, and she would have these big parties, and 100 people would show up, and she would have all this fantastic food, and just everything was just so amazing. And I went a few times and stayed with her. And when you stayed with Vicky, you did whatever. And so and she taught me how to do things. She taught me how to wash dishes. She taught me how to clean things and do things. And she said, Lynn, I'm an impressionist. I give the impression that everything is is done in this perfect way, and it always was. Everything was always just immaculate and clean, and she was like, from the moment of awakening, she would lay in bed and talk to Jesus for a while, and then she'd get up and get moving and cooking breakfast for all these kids and doing all this um work, and she always, it was like effortless completely. And when you stayed with her and you did the work too, it was effortless. It was just completely like nothing. And so I see, because of her attitude and how that she just was able to just move through things without without resistance. I learned so much from her. About how to do just so many things, plus how to cook some really good stuff too. But that's it. It's and if you know Vicky, she is like uh, she's like Jesus. When you're with her, you just feel that flow of joy. Um, but that's because she's given her whole being to being this thing, this Christ. So, uh, it's Jesus tells us, you don't have to do anything. Just tell me, ask me, tell me, and I will do it for you. And it'll be as easy as if you're being carried down a path on a summer day. You won't have to worry about how you're going to get things done. It just happens. And I'm there doing it. The Holy Spirit's doing it for you. So I love that. These examples are just so wonderful. John, please go ahead.
To say, sorry, really quickly, Lynn, you are an amazing example of that when you had all those things happen to you on your trip to and from Scotland. You had angels following you in everywhere. You really are a shining example of what you've just said. You really are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Yeah, that was an amazing thing too. I mean, there's just, everybody wants to be good. Everybody wants to help you. Everyone wants to love you. That's what people really want. Just give them a chance to be loved, and they're going to be grateful for it. They'll remember you forever. Anyway, go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I missed the stories about your trip to Scotland, but I guess I'll pick it up as we go along. But I understand what you mean, because God said it was good. It was all good. And if you can echo that, I mean, you're rocking and rolling right there. What I would like to just add to the conversation is simply, and it started off with the restroom because, and God doing it, because the idea comes to me that, you know, this what I'm doing in there is a spiritual process. I have no clue how that biscuit got digested or what happened to it in my body. I haven't got a clue, but I know that it's there to nourish me, and you know, and it's done its job, and now it's on its way out. And by the way, you know, I have no idea of the process of that. Is the entire thing. It's just goes by divine orchestration. God is doing this whole thing, right from me picking an apple off the tree to saying goodbye to my role. You know, it's just being with the process is quite a contemplation right there, and just to recognize that even this digestive system that exists within inside of me is independent of the human body itself. It's there to provide my human body with the nourishment, with the way that it's going to perform, and it does that in such a brilliant way. So God is doing me in a brilliant way, and I'm just wondering, as a brief comment, Mandi, if the people knew what was going on here, they'd be hanging from the rafters. This is incredible what you brought here and the messages that you bring. I'm so grateful. And with that, I would like to say, if it's okay, if I read an image that I got from Joel, because it's God's doing, if I may, if that's all right.
I would love to hear you read something from Joel. He says this very same thing.
This is an image that I'm going to write out by hand and do it, because it speaks directly to what we're talking about. Right here and now, I accept the grace of God. I accept the grace of God as the allness and onlyness and perfection of my being, of my body, of my business. I accept God's grace as companionship, as home, as opportunity, as success. I accept consciously the grace of God as a law unto my being, as the only law operating in my mind, in my consciousness, in my heart, in my life, in my soul, in my being, in my body, in all that concerns me. I consciously accept God as the one influence in my life. I accept the activity of the Christ, the spirit of soul. I accept the love of God as the only love in my experience. I consciously reject any love which is not of God. I consciously reject every love which is not of God, every law which is not of God, and every belief which is not of God. Anything and everything of a material and mental nature which is not of God. And in doing this, I open myself to receive divine grace in consciousness, to accept the government of God in place of the government of matter and material beliefs, and mental beliefs, and mortal beliefs, and the theories and superstition. One short paragraph follows that and says, why should I be under the subject of where the stars are in the sky? Why should I be under the superstitions of a church? Why should I be under the superstitions of astrology or theology? Why should I be under the superstitions of natural law? Why, even in my inner consciousness? Why not in my inner consciousness realize God's government is supreme? It operates through grace, and I, here and now, accept the grace of God.
That is terrific. I love that. And when you hear that, how could you accept any other mortal condition? You just couldn't. That is how we need to be living. I love that. I love that, John. Thank you so much for reading that.
Thank you for allowing me.
No, well, it's so powerful. Amazing, amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, that's a manifesto. Absolutely. That's the daily affirmation that this is This is what I'm here for. Yep. Oh my gosh, that book. I'm telling you what, I'm so grateful for everybody. I'm so grateful for Glory and bringing these things to us. And I'm so grateful for, everyone who comes here that has this point of view that is so open and universal. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that, John. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share?
I put up in the chat, I'll put it up again. We were talking earlier about nothing happens without our wanting it to happen. And like you mentioned here earlier, like Ken Wapnick seemed to die at an early age. And then we kind of give our thought, well, I never thought that he would die at such a young age. That's obviously an ego thought, first of all, he didn't die, but in the course, in lesson 152, it says nothing occurs but represents your wish. No one dies without his own consent. No one can grieve, nor fear, nor think him sick unless these are outcomes that he wants. And that comes in the lesson, the power of decision is my own. So we are the ones that decide what happens in the dream. And that's why it's a classroom, I came here to learn lessons, lesson 193. All things are lessons God would have me learn. So if you're going to say God is doing me, all things are lessons God would have me learn. We come here to a classroom to learn the lessons. And I really want to thank you, John, on that reading from Joel, especially the last couple of lines. I accept God's grace. Everything is really done with the grace of God. I mean, it's and if you wanted to read the last couple of lines again, I would appreciate it. And it's called The Government of Eden, right?
Well, I'll read the last paragraph because it ends.
Okay, very good. Very good. Thanks.
It says, why should I be under the subject of where the stars are in the sky? Why should I be under the superstitions of a church? Why should I be under the superstitions of astrology or theology? Why should I be even under the superstitions of natural law? Why not, in my inner consciousness, realize God's government is supreme and it operates through grace. And I, here and now, accept the grace of God.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for asking me, because I got another chance to breathe that in. I mean, what you just said, Dove, about the course, and that implies learning. But actually, my understanding is the course is here not for teaching anything, but it's for us having an experience, and just to allow myself to have experiences of acceptance, and every opportunity of acceptance. Enjoy the experience. It's not about a book learning, it's about having an experience. For me.
Well, exactly. That is what it says in that paragraph I put in the chat. No one can grieve, which is an experience, nor fear, which is an experience, nor think himself sick, another experience, unless these are the outcomes that he wants. That's cause, and not I'm a victim effect. Okay. And that last line, and here and now, I accept the grace of God, is the exact same thing as I accept the atonement for myself. He actually says your only responsibility in this world, this is Jesus talking in the Course in Miracles, The only responsibility that you have in this world is to accept the atonement for yourself. That's identical to I accept the grace of God. Same thing.
Thank you, Dove. Thank you, John. Yes. And you just remind me that lesson 76, it says, I'm under no laws but God's. And it says, there are no laws except the laws of God. This needs repeating over and over until you realize it applies to everything that you have made in opposition to God's will. Your magic has no meaning. What it is meant to save does not exist. Only what it is meant to hide will save you. I'm under no laws but God's, and God is in everything I see because God is here in my mind. Mandi, please go ahead.
And this is what we all have to bear in mind when we're given ideas about world disease of any kind. There's only God's grace. And this, like you've just said, I echo it, everything that you just said, everybody, over and over and over again. You know, we're only under God's grace. That's it. That's the only thing to remember. And I was thinking about what you were saying, Dov, as well, and people were saying about, you know, often great masters do die relatively young. They don't seem to be often the ones that live till they're in their 90s and their hundreds. Many of them, like Joel and other people, you know, have sort of died in 60s and 70s. And somebody asked a question of Lauren Lucille, who Lauren Lucille was with Lester Levinson for 20 years. And in this particular video, Rafi might know of this, I don't know whether you've seen this, but somebody asks her, you know, Lester Levinson, he got better through using the release technique, through releasing, basically letting go and letting God is the release technique, another way of looking at it. And he got better of every disease. And then he went to live for like another 45 years. And then when he died of cancer, this student asked, well, why would he die of cancer then? Why would that happen? And she answered it so skillfully, really, is that that when somebody has lived their life so fully open to grace, some along these lines, not the words I'm saying, but they exactly know when they've done everything they need to go, and they just choose to go on to the next stage. So they may choose an illness like cancer, which a lot of the great masters, Ramana Maharshi and many others, did choose to use as their vehicle as a gateway from this world to the next world, you know. And I'm just echoing what's you know, has been said, really, about that people can choose when they die or how they die or when they know when it's enough. I mean, this is very, very highly conscious people we're talking about. So yeah, so that's I find that, you know, I just find everything that we've all been saying is really, really interesting. And it's so great that, you know, this call, I know I always use this analogy, you must get tired of it, but it is just like a shining diamond where we are all equal facets of it. Everybody that speaks here, it's overwhelmingly brilliant and sparkling and beautiful, and it's so clear that we are all one here. You know, I am so humbled by this call every week, and I learn so much, and I'm so grateful to be here. I really thank you, Lynn, for evolving this call that we could be together. I find it overwhelmingly amazing, really stunning, actually. Thank you so much, you and everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mandi. Thank you for being here. You're the catalyst.
No. Thank you, John, and everyone here. Honestly, it's just amazing to me. I feel very, very blessed. Very blessed.
It's so invigorating. That's, for me, it is what keeps me like alive is this constant contact with such, I mean, such beautiful beings who are just so filled with love. And that's, that's what I see. But when I come on this morning, when I first came on, and it was just Rafi and me. So I thought, well, that this is cool. We'll spend some time with Rafi, and I was so excited because here's a person who has done so much to enrich my life, um, just by your being, Rafi, and that bring this wonderful work uh, of releasing into the group, and that there are people in this group who have really benefited tremendously from that. So when I come on and it's just me and Rafi, I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. This is going to be this is going to be a really good time here. But then, of course, then Mandy comes in and is like, wow, even more. And every time someone pops in, it's like such a gift to me. And to be able to have this connection with people just at will, just turning on a computer and turning on a program is so uh so beautiful. It's and beautiful isn't even the word. It is just such a gift. So I'm grateful to everybody, everybody who's a part of it. And knowing though as well that you are all reflections of me. It's like I'm just out here looking back at myself and seeing all the beautiful things that I really am too, and we're all the same for each other. That's what a gift that is, and what an affirmation. Dove, please go ahead.
Oh, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know my hand was up, but what comes to mind as we're talking, it's like a circle of equals. Kind of reminds me of the five core themes that Regina uses. I was thinking about if you have to be a speaker on Awakening Together, you have to choose one of the five. And if you look at all five, they all say the same thing. So if you have to pick one, I mean, picking one of the five is the same thing as picking all five. They all say the same thing, and that's really what's going on here too. We all are sharing from the one mind, from 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 the union, from the unity, from the single-mindedness of purpose.
Yeah. And honestly, when you were talking about those core themes with Regina, and I was thinking, you know, there again is another example of how I'm just so blessed. Of course, I have to think about me, how I'm just so blessed that, of all the people in the world, Regina would move to the town where I live, and, that I could become associated with her in so many ways and be given these gifts. Is like, I thought, I'm just alone in this little town, and, I'll never have a spiritual community around me. And not only did Regina bring her whole spiritual community, but connected me with you, with Dove, and is the real reason that I'm here doing this right now. And you think, how what crazy coincidence with the Holy Spirit, a woman fall asleep, dream, and be told by the Holy Spirit to move to Pueblo, didn't even know what Pueblo was, and had to look it up on a map, and then listen to that and came and moved here. You know, what crazy machinery
Right.
is Holy Spirit using to make this happen?
And she was living in North Carolina, the other side of the world.
Yeah. And just up and move over here, and
There are no accidents in God's plan for salvation. None. Zero.
A serious plan, absolutely. John, Sunday, and then Rafi. Go ahead, John.
I love this conversation so much. A couple things, points I want to bring up, and first is what the spirit that brought Regina to Pueblo, and it just takes me back to my philosophy teacher, and it is his opening gambit in the creation of the world, because he draws from science and philosophy and theology and all different regimes. And one of the things he says and it comes from the Bible, it says the Spirit of God moved over the face of the earth. And like he says this is a major secret, a major secret. In healing and in all kinds of stuff. But basically it's an understanding that everything that is kicked it off is started with the Spirit of God that moved over this, and that we're a part of it. It's a big deal to just to get in the consciousness. But that wasn't what I was going to say, but it kind of ties it in, that it's just a recognition that I am and you are and we all are part of this consciousness. And when what alerted me to was Mandy's comment about just being in the group and acknowledging that the role that each one plays in this group from her perspective. And it's just reminded me of something, and I just want to say it because it's important for my healing, but it may also be for others, because I heard the same thing come from you, Lynn, when you said when Regina comes. Like for me, I kind of put Mandy on a bit of a pedestal with her writings and stuff like that, and it's basically a content distortion and a bias where I don't see people as all equal. I see some people as more and me as less, or me as more and them as less. And it's this that old ego game going on and on and on. So really just to be reminded by what you're saying and by what Mandy's saying, yeah, sister, we are all gifts. Maybe we are all facets of the same diamond shining at a different moment or whatever. And just take that one in, accept that one as a gift of of grace, and be willing to accept it and recognize that the gig is up. There's these content distortions and biases are just BS big time. So that was my comment, and I'm so grateful for you for bringing that to my attention, both of you actually, again, to heal my crazy ego mind.
I love that, John. And
It's
yeah,
okay.
did you want to say something, Mandy?
It just was funny because any one of us at any time, if we ever believed any overinflation about who we were, do you know what I mean? Or any compliment, if we I mean, it's lovely for us all to acknowledge each other and to have it's lovely, of course, but I'm just agreeing with John. It's really funny, this game of, oh, I'm not worthy to be here, oh, but or going from one to the other. I mean, it's just funny, because if you ever really truly believed that you were better than anybody else, I mean, at that moment you just plummet right down to the you plummet right back down. So, I mean, it's just so funny. I mean, when I went to Scotland and I saw all these kind of spiritual leader types, I called them, but they weren't. They were the most beautiful, like everybody here, the most beautiful people I'd ever met. They were wonderful. But when I first went, I thought, my goodness, I wonder how they let me in. And I did that same thing. I was really sort of thinking, oh, crikey, most of them know each other and they're very learned, much more than me. They've heard of everybody and I've heard of hardly anybody. And some of them have written about 17 books, and all this kind. I had a little bit of that going on, and then I saw it really quickly. And I saw that was ego. It's just as egotistic to put yourself down as to raise yourself up, because ego's only mind, isn't it? That's all ego means. It doesn't actually mean big-headed. It just means mind. So that's all we're listening to. And I saw it and I just started laughing out loud and just dropped it immediately and had the most wonderful time. But years ago, if I'd, as a younger person, I would have held on to that. And so my experience would have been miserable, because I would have believed the entire time that everybody was better than me. And then halfway through, if you really thought that, then that's a real trap, because resentment can get in then, because then you could sort of resent all the ones that you think are better than you. I mean, it's just a terrible trap, and we have to just never ever, make anybody special more than anybody else. But we are all special. That's the joke, isn't it? And we shine. Like, if that diamond turns round, there'll be light on one side of the diamond, and at that particular point, and then that will be very bright, and the other side will be a little bit more in the shade. So as the diamond turns, as the life happens moment by moment, we all have our little moments of shining, don't we? And then and then we're shining. But then next minute you're shining, because you've just said something just unbelievably awesome, like everybody does in this group, and then that person's shining. So that's what I love about really seeing through to the evenness, but the evenness of all of us and the specialness of all of us. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's just my point of view. Rub it in on. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, that's the purpose, honestly, the purpose of this group completely is to shine, and just to know that every single person here is equally has that same knowledge, that same being. We are all the Christ. So, why would you look at one as being higher or more knowledgeable, or you can be knowledgeable about things in the world and history of religions, and know what all the teachers said and all that kind of stuff. You can know all of those things, but not really experience the Christ within. There and you can see how the difference that it makes when people uh stop living in their heads and start living in their hearts, and experiencing the love of the Christ within each other. When we do that and see that everybody is equally the same and has the same uh, wisdom. And as Dove has posted, this is from Awakening Together. We are an assembly of equals joined in a common purpose. That's exactly what we are here. And that's why I'm just so grateful for everyone who joins, everyone who speaks, everyone who doesn't speak, everyone who's just given their loving attention, because it's all equal. There's nobody doing any more than anyone else. We're all fighting the same hard battle. And that's why together we can support each other, and be grateful for each other being here. Rafi, you've had your hand up for a while. Your fingers are probably going numb, but I would love to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I just how I was led to the path to enlightenment. It was an astounding and yet very simple way. I meet a woman at a party. We fall in love, and we live together. She says, let's go to Italy." I'm not going to turn that down. We go to Italy. Let's go to Florence. I go to Florence. I walk into a cathedral. I see clothing worn by St. Francis of Assisi. I have a physical attack that's beyond description. Something is talking to me. We get back to the United States. she gets a phone call because she's a celebrated documentary filmmaker from the Sedona Method. The Sedona Method said, we'd like you to consider making a film about our method. I don't know anything about it. Well, we have a workshop. Come to the workshop. She said, you want to go? I go. I get it. 10 minutes there. I get it. Okay. And then I get a call from Larry Crane, who's one of Lester's disciples. A little while later, he says, I'm starting the release technique here in LA. I said, great, because that's more accessible. I'm not going to go to Arizona. I go to a high school reunion, and there's a fellow there named Fishman. And that we graduated high school together. And he's talking about this Course in Miracle, and he hands me a book that he wrote that he wrote a little inscription in it, and I take that home. The next thing I know, I've got all of these Course in Miracles Zoom things. I'm being led by the nose, step by step by step by step. You think there are no accidents? I was brought here exactly to do it. And everything, every place I turn, there is that perfectly designed by this divine intelligence that is the substratum of all of this so-called existence, that is guiding us, that one intelligence that's guiding all of us and our particular way, so that we can all get home to a home we never left. And there is no it's just astounding. You talk about no accidents, divinely planned. Okay, all I got to do is shut up, sit down, and be, and everything else is taken care of. You get right back to what's the easiest thing in the world to do? Be. According to your mind, you go, mind, that's the hardest thing. Be what? I don't. But be, and everything else unfolds exactly the way it's supposed to. For me, for you, for him, for her, for that. It's perfectly planned. It's just astounding. And when I became aware of that, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, okay, shut up and let it happen. And you'll be, and of course, look where we are.
Yeah. Yes. And because of that, you can live in just as I do now so much in just joyful expectation, because I know that whatever is the next thing and the next thing and the next thing is just like astounding more and more and more. And it's what a gift, what a grace we have here. And I mean, the same, how does Mandi even show up here? How do we even know about Mandi? Well, I learned about Mandi from, I'm not sure if it was from Rick Archer or from, I think it was from Conscious TV. And why was I watching Rick Archer and Conscious TV? Because I worked for Regina, and Regina asked me to be looking at these different various teachings and find people who could come and teach and do satsang at Awakening Together. So otherwise I don't, I would eventually, I'm sure, have found out about these things. I don't know, but looking for something and finding Mandi and falling in love with her. And I did interview Mandi, and we did have because that was part of what my job was to interview people. And so it's just like, all these things just come together because we're meant to be here together. We're just meant to be here together. And there's nothing more, nothing less. We're here for the love. Carrie, hi. I'd love to hear
Hi,
you.
Lynn. I just want to say also, I appreciate what everybody shares here. And, what I wanted to say about the poem, about the slowing down part in particular, because it's so easy for me anyway to get caught up in the day-to-day and the contents of awareness, which is the problems and all that, just what could feel so overwhelming. And what I like about the slowing down is that it reminds you not just what's important, but what is actually real. And that's just can be, it feels like such a burden being lifted. So that's the part that I resonated with today.
Oh,
Thank you.
Carrie, thanks. Oh, sorry, Lynn.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Oh, Carrie, that's great because these things really they really are so simple. I mean, every word that everybody said here today, it's so important because yeah, first that slowing down just means that you're letting your divine presence come in. You're being done, all these expressions that we've used. And you only notice it when you do slow down, really. And you know what you and Lynn and Rafi were saying that because yes, the way that we guided is so overwhelming. It's so close, and as Joel always says, closer to you than than breathing. And yeah, I was just sat yesterday, as I'm sure we all have moments like this, lots of them, when you just sat in absolutely awesome gratitude of the way that, to put it in a pictorial way, that God holds your hand and leads you along. I mean, it really is incredible. You're never left to fend for yourself. You are so utterly upheld. And in that the right books come at the right time, the right teachers come, or you hear somebody say exactly the right thing that you need. And in so many other ways, and some more ordinary ways, just when you're out shopping, and some extraordinary ways, and just miraculous ways, and it just keeps on, being amazing till you learn to just expect it, like you were saying, Lynn. I think I said this, the other week, when I fell down in the park. And it was early and there was no one around. Forgive me for repeating it. I just waited. I couldn't get up because my knees are a bit damaged. Well, that's the belief anyway. So I couldn't get up. And I was quite happy to wait there in public. I thought, well, there wasn't any public. That was the thing. There was no one there. I thought, I just know that my angel will come along soon and help me up. And then this lovely guy came along, helped me up. And it was so cool the way he did it. It was a really cool angel he was. And it's just that yeah, I always expect angels, and they come, and these angels come in every word that like has been spoken here today. God's speaking through each and every one of us, and through you just now, Carrie. I mean, yeah, well, we couldn't speak anyway, could we? We couldn't speak truthfully and from the heart if it wasn't God coming through. I mean, I love what uh, this Lauren Lucille said the other way. She says, you always know the difference between thoughts from God, inspirational thought, and your mortal thoughts. Because she says you only hear it once. When you get a true inspirational thought, you hear it once. And if you're lucky, you've got something that you can immediately write it down or not. But your mortal thoughts, your judging thoughts, you hear repeating over and over and over and over again all the time, all the time. That's your mortal thoughts. That's what we're dealing with day to day, all the time. And we don't give them enough, when we give ourselves breathing space, they stop for a while, which is going slowly. But I loved that. I thought that's a really clear instruction, that how do you know that you're getting thoughts from God? Because I thought, just because you think, oh, isn't that tree absolutely beautiful? Oh, look at the sun shining on it. That's not a thought from God. That's still a judgment, even if it's a nice, pretty judgment. But a thought from God is something that is so simple and inspirational and easy, and it just comes once. Might come another time, you might get it in another thought, or another thought that kind of means the same, but you know what I mean, it just comes once. Like the other day, 3:30 in the morning, I just got a thought, and I thought, well, never mind being tired, I'm just going to wake myself up to write this down, because I know it'll only come once. The rest of the junk just keeps repeating. That's not what I'm listening to. So I found that a very helpful instruction as well.
Thank you for that. I love that. And you're right about it. These thoughts that come as just strict inspiration, um, they're just right there. And then, you might go into judgment about it and start thinking about it and deciding what you should do about it and whether or not I believe it or I'm going to listen to. Your mind goes crazy with it if you don't just stop and just stop right there and listen. And I love that you got up in the night and wrote it down. Because the ego mind is, doesn't want to hear those things, just really wants to hear what keeps the story going. So, what stops the story is not really very enticing to the ego mind. All right. Well, we're coming up towards the end, I think. Um, uh, does anybody have anything that they would like to close with, or do you want to reread the poem? That would be lovely. And Mandy, would you mind rereading the poem for us?
No, this time I usually always say no, but these poems came through me, so I learn from them when I read them too. I am reminded of stuff just the same way as anybody else. So when John was reading that poem, I thought, oh wow, I've forgotten that.
I know.
Yeah, not like, oh, aren't I clever? I had nothing to do with it. It was I just thought, oh wow. So I thought, oh, I would enjoy to read that if that's okay with everyone.
Absolutely. We would love that. So I'm going to put it up in the
Thank you.
screen again.
Put my glasses on. God is doing you. Every little thing you do is by His grace and not by you. But because you move at such a pace, you often miss this perfect grace, except in nature or in a garden or when a bird sings. But what about when you're doing bathroom things? Often in the bathroom, you think about what's next instead of chilling in the moment and enjoying the rest. So when resting, notice the light that's even around the toilet rolls, instead of thinking about your next activities and goals. For instance, just this morning, when handling a roll of foil, I marveled at how my fingers made it uncoil. At first, it was unnoticed and taken for granted, but immediately after, I saw the life force implanted, and that it was my spiritual I who was performing the task, which was otherwise impossible and pointless to ask. Of mine own self, I can do nothing. Christ says and knows. In him, I move and have my being and wiggle my toes. Well, maybe I added that last bit, but you are getting the gist. That spiritual substance is of what we consist. To see this love light, you really don't need classes. Simply readjust your eyesight and put on God's glasses. Relax your gaze and admit no interference. Then God, I am, sees beyond the appearance. And then it starts getting really interesting and worthy of all your time investing, because you start losing your shockability and begin to develop a spiritual ability. So if someone offends you or tells you of an illness they feel, you'll know the impossibility of that to be real. You may observe your mind wanting to resist the truth, that the person concerned doesn't even exist, that their thoughts and their body is a mind-made facade, which you can and must instantly discard. By discerning through your spiritual eyes that just where they seem to be, only love resides. Right there, where discord seems to appear, is spirit, God, as life, right here. And just a word about feeling offended. The moment you hear it, make sure that it's ended. In that very instant, you can make a choice to take it personally or listen to the voice of ego that blindly leads down paths of self-pity where thoughts can quickly form a resentment committee. So, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? That's the phrase to remember, but just make it snappy. Otherwise, ego will get you. It's all just a test. Do you choose misery or ease and rest? Seeing through. That is all you have to do, not searching outside and trying to find, but only by resting beyond the mind. So this is crucially important and something you can't fake. If you can't slow yourself right down, don't say you're awake. This is where the rubber meets the road regarding humility, because you've achieved nothing if you are lacking this ability to slow down absolutely every single task, washing, drying, eating, or opening a flask, pulling up your trousers, fastening your shoe, and never ever rushing anything you do. If you know you haven't been living this way, and I mean constantly, every second of the day, then you are missing out on life, existing only in time, constantly futurizing. And this is the real crime. You're not as aware as you imagine. It's still in your head, only something you think you know from wisdom that you've read. That might sound harsh, but it's love's wake-up call to get clear in leading you right back to now and nowhere else but here. So please don't be saddened by the words you've just heard, because there is no past time that's ever truly occurred. To live the life of wakefulness that I've just described, rely on I to help with this. It's well beyond the mind. Just relax as I. Abide in me. Remember just to simply be. And we can start this process now, together, me and you. Since you and me are one and all, we only live as peace. Countless others will hear love's call, and they too will release all their trying and conspiring and living life by force, will yield and give way to grace centered in their source.
Thank you, Mandi.
You.
Amen, amen, amen. We are just blessed, blessed, blessed to have us all together here today. And so grateful for you.
So grateful for you all. Thank you. And when I read that poem, it felt harsh to me, and I thought, oh, this is where the rubber meets the road. Oh gosh, like how much am I slowing down and everything? It reminds me as well, that but I think that I think the great thing about releasing is that it's kind of the same thing, because every time you're releasing in every moment, just letting go and letting go, then you are slowing things down. So that's very nice to know, you see, because it's very it makes it sound easier. It's the same thing as releasing. It's just kind of we're in contraction and just noticing that, you know, just doing that. And in Sedona, they just say, even imagine you're doing that inside. Ah, that works. It really does. People can't believe it. So simple, but just doing that slows down. So when you find yourself busy doing a task and thinking of the next task, if you just stop and just go, inside, then that you've just done what that poem said. You've slowed it right down. And I just wanted to say that because otherwise it sounds like, oh God, who can do that? Who can be slowing down? But there are these simple ways of going at it, which just make it much gentler, really. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mandy. And yeah, it is just being mindful. And that's really it. John, Sunday, please go ahead.
Thanks, Mandy, for reading that and your comments on that. So beautiful. And it goes back to the beginning for me of getting over it. And getting over what? And it came in the poem, shockability and offended. Anytime there's a shockability going on or an offense going on, that's what I got to get over. And how am I going to do that? Simply just remembering, the I can choose. I'm choosing now to be calm, relaxed, and any other quality that I would like to do, but not in response. But perhaps the biggest one is compassion for what's coming my way, or for what my own experiences with the shockability and the offense, and just getting over it, and being willing to just remember this day when we've had this lesson with all of us here, the experience of being with you and hearing all the people talking, and actually feeling this poem read like that. It's so beautiful, and I want to acknowledge you and everybody here for helping me with my experience of my life.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the same thing. Snap.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, John. And Rafi puts in the chat, am I aware now? Just asking is, yes, I'm aware now.
Instant. Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Rafi.
I love it. I love you guys so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Mandy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you all later. And we'll see what's going on.
Bye for
Bye,
now.
my friends. Bye for
Bye.
now.